Hi, so today I'm going to show how to set up the inventory rollover in the optimization exercise model. So the purpose of this demo is to show how to avoid the circular reference and also get the inventory rollover to work in the dynamic time constraint that the optimizer requires. So to get this set up, there's 4 steps. The first is setting up a previous week lookup in the dynamic time weeks list. Then we have to set up the beginning inventory as both a variable and a constraint, and then update the optimizer action before running. So to set up the previous week lookup, I'll go to the dynamic time weeks list and I'll add a property. And the format needs to be a list, and it'll be the weeks list as the output. And then I'll need to do a find item. So what that'll do is we'll take the week's value, find the code, subtract 1 to get your previous week in your dynamic time value. So we'll come back to this and use this in a formula later in the setup. So the next thing I have to do is set up beginning inventory as a variable. So I'll open my variables module and insert a line item. And it'll be dimensionalized by SKUs and weeks, so we can leave that as is. Then in my objective, I need to tie in that variable. Next, I need to set up the beginning inventory as a constraint. So the beginning inventory formula, there's a simplified version on the dashboard. So this is what we're trying to achieve. Beginning inventory equals our previous common supply. So in this case, there are some common parts that are on hand which are used, so this is an input. Then we have our previous production, which is a variable, plus your previous beginning inventory, which is also a variable. To get this to work in the optimizer, we have to switch it to the linear programming syntax, which means we have to have variables on the left-hand side of the equation, and we can keep the input on the right side. So the updated formula will look like this, and then we'll add in the dynamic previous week lookup at the end of each previous item. So to set up the constraint, I'll add a new line item. And then I'll need to make sure it is Boolean and summary is all. And then I need to populate the formula. So in the formula, you'll see wherever we need to pull the previous week's value, we complete a lookup and we select the property that we added to that week's list. So once I have the formula set up, I go to my optimizer action and add in the variable and constraint that we just set up. Once I do that, I can go back to the dashboard and hit Run Inventory Rollover. And you'll see my beginning inventory line item has updated. So what it's doing here is taking the previous common supply, which is 50,000, subtracting the previous week's produced, 25,000, and adding the previous beginning inventory, which is 0, to get me my 25,000 for beginning inventory of my next period. So the same thing can be done for other rolling variables such as ending inventory, demand, or supply. There's more details on that in the inventory rollover documentation on the community page.